At this time in the Quick Speed Shop, I'm back working on the 1940 two-door Mercury Prostreet sedan with 3 carburetors. I'm a professional, don't try this at home. Alright, so last time when you saw me working on this, I went and I fixed the hood pin. I put a new fuel filter on and moved some lines under the hood around. And then the big thing I did was relocating, or actually putting in a new shifter and making an adapter for the steering wheel to pull the wheel away from the column so I could actually get my feet under it and be able to run the pedals all right and all that stuff. Now this time I'm going to be working on, this thing has a problem with the clutch. It's got I think a T10 4-speed in it, and it's got an internal hydraulic throwout bearing, which is, I think, starting to fail, and it's not allowing the clutch to release all the way, so the clutch slips a little bit when you're under load, like in 3rd and 4th gear. You can't really step on the gas, so that's no good. But this thing has a Lakewood bell housing, and I'm going to be getting parts to convert it over to an external slave cylinder or a mechanical leakage. I'm not sure which yet. And that will allow the clutch to function like normal and not have an internal slave cylinder or an internal throwout bearing that when that goes bad, the hydraulic throwout bearing, you need to pull the transmission out. With an external unit, the throwout bearing should be fine, and then any hydraulic or mechanical problems with the linkage will be on the outside of the transmission and outside of the bell housing, so you won't need to pull the transmission out of the car every time you got a problem. But I discovered another issue with the car in the rear end. We're going to go ahead and we're going to look at that right now. Okay, this car is a Prostreet, which means it's got great big fat tires up under here, and you can see the wheel wells here. It's got huge wheel wells in the back. It's got really big dish wheels with a Prostreet action. So when I was under the car looking at the transmission, we got a Denny's drive shaft, good quality drive shaft. I was looking at the transmission here. There's the Lakewood bell housing. Looks like it's got a little bit of a leak I got to take care of, but when I was looking at that, I was around here. I'll turn you around and look at the back of the rear end here. In the back of the car, we got the Prostreet rear end. We got an 8-inch Ford, which was out of like a Mustang 2, and it's got a 4-bar setup with QA1 coilovers in the back. But the problem, if I can zoom in, I'm kind of like one hand in this, is right here. Get in there. The housing is broken. You see that? It's actually broken at the welding, at the weld seam. And this is not the first time that happened. My friend Tom built this car originally. He's got a really steep driveway, and it would twist the car to the point where it actually broke the rear end on this side, and he's already welded it up once. And you can see over here it's broken on this side now. So that's a huge issue. These 4-link setups don't allow a tube to twist. It locks it pretty much in place, so it puts a lot of force on the center section of this rear end, and this 8-inch Ford just can't handle it. This is probably I think it's the 3rd time that it's broken the housing. So what I need to do is get this rear end out of here, and I'm actually going to change the whole rear suspension in a future set of videos. And this rear end is not sustainable in this car for whatever reason, and you can't have a broken rear end housing because it could come right apart and cause the car to go right off the road and have an accident. That'd be really bad. So I'm thinking about what to do about this. You can see over here, you can see the 4-link mounts, and it comes up here. It's been back halved. The inner frame rail, or the original frame rails, were cut out and moved inboard about a foot. And then you got the 4-bar mount here, which goes over here to adjustable mounts, and then it's got a where's my finger, a bracket here that welds to the housing. Then you got the coilovers back there, which are adjustable. They're QA1 coilover springs and shocks. They're a good quality setup. It's got a panhard bar up there, up top, to hold the rear end side to side. Typical like Prostreet setup with a big rubber. You got the great big back tires back here. I think they're like 2850s or something like that. Big Mickey Thompson Sportsmans. So I made a little diagram to describe what's going on right here. Right now we got this 4-bar setup here where you've got the frame rail, which was cut off and extended up and over the rear end, and it's also moved inboard. So with those big wide tires, you move the frame rails in, and you've got this 4-bar mount, which here has the coil springs on the back, in the rear end here, and then the 4 bars come up and they mount to a bracket up here on the frame, and that allows basically, if you can picture, 2 pieces of pipe like this, and in theory the rear end goes like this and it goes up and down. What it doesn't allow, this is kind of like a race car setup, and what it doesn't allow is the rear end, when it's in the car like this, when the wheels go up and down, it wants to twist this tube by having these 2 mounts out here. It wants to twist it torsionally, and because the mounts are super inboard, you don't have any way to take that stress out of there, and that's what's breaking this rear end housing. Is that car with those big tires, and where it used to live, it used to go up a steep driveway, it had an angle, so the car would come in, turn in the driveway, the rear end would twist, that 4 bar was locked in solid and just wanted to go up and down and not a lot of this, and all that force would go into this rear end housing, and that's what's broken this rear end housing. So I'm kind of over the prostreet look of the car, and I can't have it breaking the rear end every time, and it's about 15 years old, so the tires are getting really old and stuff like that. So I don't want to put another rear end in it and leave it prostreet and have to buy all new tires. They're really expensive and all that. I think I'd rather just do a regular rear suspension in this car and just have it for a nice driver with a wild paint scheme. So I want to, there's my diagram. So I want to go back to stock and put a leaf spring setup under the back of it. So that's going to require going into the trunk of the car, cutting the wheel tubs out of the trunk, cutting the frame rails off where the frame rails have been narrowed in the back of the car, cutting those off, moving them back out to where they should be factory, welding them back on, and then getting a new rear end and leaf springs and just hanging it like a traditional setup. And leaf springs twist a lot, you know, because they're spring steel, so they can twist, you know, up and down, and they can also twist laterally. They'll allow the rear end to do whatever it wants to. The rear end isn't locked in. The rear end can do this and twist both springs, or do this and twist both springs, and it takes all the stress out of this tube, which tubes can't twist. So it takes all the stress out of that tube, and it'll just twist the springs, and the springs will twist out here at the end, and you're also moving the mount outside, so you got more room to twist and not put any stress in the rear end housing. So that's what I'm going to be working on probably in the fall. I'm going to bring this car in and have it torn down for probably 2 months. So in the trunk here, you'll see those huge wheel well tubs. This has all been added. Those tubs are about that wide to accommodate the big tires. This is a built up area over. There's a plastic fuel cell, like a race car fuel cell, which refuels in here. And then there's a tool tray down under this piece here. But I will basically be cutting all these tubs out of this and basically cutting the whole floor, pretty much most of the floor except for back here, out of the car, taking the gas tank out, cutting all this out. The frame rails are right here right now on the inside of these wheel tubs. Be moving the frame rails back out to where they were, and then reskinning the inside of this wheel tub and making it a lot narrower, and just having like a 235 series wide tire on the outside, like a stock size tire. So we'll open up a ton of trunk space. We'll probably relocate the battery, mount that a little bit more over in there, get some trunk space back. And you see back in here, there's a big stereo system. That's also coming out right now. It's got 2 amplifiers, a subwoofer, some 6x9s, and some other stuff in there. So this was high end and super cool back in like 2000 or whatever when it was put in the car. But I'm not a big stereo guy whatsoever. Half my cars don't even have radios, and I want to put a back seat in this thing so I can cruise. I mean, this is all high-end Audiobahn speakers and stuff, so I'm going to remove all this stuff and very carefully and make sure it doesn't get damaged. And I'm going to see if my friend that gave me the car wants it back. So I think for now we're going to focus on tearing the stereo out. All right, we got main controller. I got all the batteries all disconnected. Got like 4, I guess, mini amps or something for this. I see speaker wire going to them. Got these 2 big Audiobahn amps, and this is the wires to feed it over here. But basically, I guess I'm just going to start slowly disassembling this and see how it comes out of here. I know the woofer goes into the back. I think this cover is just snapped on here somehow. Yeah, there we go. I mean, this is high-end stuff. This is cast aluminum cover. This is super trick. And good quality speakers, which I'm sure are fine, but like I said, I'm not interested in doing anything like this in this car. I just want to have like I'm going to do this car up as like a 1962-ish style. I'm going to change the wheels to either some kind of like 50s hubcap or a chrome reverse rim on the outside. The black with the flames would be perfect for late 50s, early 60s, like flamboyant paint jobs, and probably put some Nerf bars on it and call it good. Because the interior is mint. The interior is like a good like 50/60 style interior. Once I put a back seat in this and get it upholstered in red, tuck and roll that'll match, it'll be pretty awesome. But before all that happens, we've got to fix that rear suspension. So this has all got to come out. Back here, there's some plexiglass. There's some wood screws up into the metal package tray. I'm going to take all this apart. Probably won't bring along for all of it because it's getting a little long-winded here. I'm going to take a bunch of screws out and then see if I can free this thing up and get it out of here. So come on back in a minute and see how I made out. Here I am over here. Look, I did it. I took all the screws out of the back that were over here in the package tray, and I've taken the plexiglass off the back of this. This thing's made out of like 3/4 inch thick MDF, so it's extremely heavy. I think the best way to get this out of the car, because it won't fill out the trunk, and it was probably built in place, I would guess, is I'm going to take the Sawzall, I'm going to cut it down the center, cut it in half, and then I think I can get each half out past the seat, out through the side, or maybe out the trunk. So I'm going to do that, cut it up in a couple of pieces, and get it up on out of here. I got it all out. Cutting it in half was a hot ticket, and I also had to cut out the fender well covers where the amps are mounted, but I got it all demoed out. This MDF stuff's super heavy if you ever worked with it. But it's out of the way. Let me show you what the inside of the car looks like. I'm sweating to death because it's hot in here. But I got it out. Bam. Maximum destruction. Right inside you can see the wheel tubs and all that. These are, I've got to go through all the wiring and pulled out, like I've got here. Some wires that I got to keep and reuse. Yeah, there. These are the speaker wires for these quarter panel speakers, so I got to keep these But most of this can come out, all the amplifier wires and all that come out. I'll chase it up to the head unit up front. But here you can see how big these wheel tubs are for the prostreet action. These are sheet metal tubs welded in here. So as I'm rebuilding the rear end and all that, these wheel tubs will probably get cut down to about here, and a hole like 12 inches taken out of them. And then I'll make a new firewall, and then there'll be a seat here in the middle, so I'll be able to have some passengers, not customers. So I'm going to clean all this up, vacuum all this out, get all this stuff demoed out of the way, and then go on from there. So I was able to save all this stuff here. I got the 2 amps. There's 2 different numbers, so one, not sure which one goes where, but this stuff should clean up all right. This is the control, the head thing that ran these other 2 ones, and then these are, what are these? Tweeter gain, 4 tweeter gains. You got the sub, we got the 6x9s. Here's that big stereo system out of the car. So what we learned today? A lot of stuff. Learned that the rear end's broken again, so I can't drive the car like I wanted to this summer without, I gotta fix the rear end. It's not good. I looked at how I gotta get the transmission out. That'll be in a future video, replacing that, converting the clutch over to external clutch fork. Took all the stereo out. That was exciting. Now I can work on really what I got to do later on when I redo the whole rear suspension and get in there, cut the wheel tubs back, cut the frame rails out, move the frame rails back out to where they used to be, and then we'll build a whole new rear suspension under this car and go from there. So not really progress forward, kind of went backwards, a little demolition, but had fun working on the 1940 Mercury 2-door sedan. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm putting out new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Hit the bell for alerts. This project will be coming back in the fall. We'll be working on it probably for a couple months in the fall, so stay tuned for that. Tell your friends, and we'll see you right back here at the Quick Speed Shop working on cool hot rods like the 1940 Mercury sedan.